Okay. So, a very good afternoon to each one of you present here today for our live session. I am very, very excited and happy because this is the first time most of our team members, most of the admin team members are here together on the platform and are going to answer all the questions that you raise around homeschooling and unschooling. And without wasting any time, I'm going to ask each one of our admin team members to introduce themselves very briefly. So, why don't you start, Saurav?
Yeah, hi everyone. Very good evening. My name is Saurav, and I live in Mumbai, but I'm basically from Kolkata, and I have a child who is right now, he has completed 5 years. Uh, what else? Uh,
I think
what
for now
else?
that's enough, Saurav.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
can
Okay,
add on
okay.
as we go. So,
Absolutely.
Lily, why don't you go next? You're
Lily, you have
mute,
to
Lily.
unmute.
You need to unmute yourself.
Mic is
Once again, you're mute. Yeah.
okay. So I am not from Calcutta, but I live in Calcutta for 20 years. I have three boys, 13, 17, and 18, and I homeschool them.
Wow. Yeah, so we have somebody who's seen in homeschooling
That's
right
about
from
it.
the beginning. And Lily has never sent her children to school. So there's a lot to learn from her. Saurav is following her footsteps. And next we have Supriya. I believe, Supriya, why don't you share a little about yourself? You need to unmute yourself.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Sharmila. Hi,
Yes.
everyone. I'm Supriya. I live in Chennai. We have a daughter who's 7 years old. We've been homeschooling her for almost 3 years now.
Yeah. So Supriya did send her child to school.
Yes,
So we have a
she
mix of different people who have started homeschooling right from the beginning. Some of them, their children have been to school and then they opted for homeschooling. Like for example, me, I have three children. My two older boys did go to school, and my daughter too went to a Montessori for a little while. But we have been, in a way, unschooling for the past 4 years. And yeah, we'll share more about ourselves as we go. We're waiting for Ruchi and Shanu to join in. Ruchi too has a very interesting homeschooling journey, and so does Shanu. Whenever they are able to show up, we will add them to our broadcast. So, first question that many people ask, and in fact, every time I meet somebody who's interested in homeschooling, asks me this question as to how do you start? How do you begin homeschooling? What do you do in the beginning? What is it that will help you enter this whole world, which is so different from um, what most people do? So I'm going to go to Lily because Lily has never sent her children to school, and I would like Lily to share in the beginning. How did you start, and how was it in the beginning for you? So, Lily, we are waiting for you to share. Oh, Lily faces some connectivity problems. So, Supriya, why don't you share as to how did you start homeschooling? Your daughter did go to school, and
Yeah, I mean, in our case, it was more of a play school, so she went on and off for almost a year. Um, and since it was play school, I wouldn't consider it as a school setup because it was more fun. But and she was around 3 years old, so we started exclusively homeschooling her when she was 4. So we moved to India at that time from the US, and that's how we started. And like I did not. I had made up my mind that okay, we don't want to go with the current education system with the pressures and killing the curiosity and creativity. So we decided that we'll go ahead and homeschool. Um, and the first thing that I did was, it was pretty overwhelming because it was a big decision to take. So the first thing was I joined as many homeschooling support groups, try to connect with as many people to understand what it is, and so that was the first step. And then as you connect with people, you get to understand that it's more about you than going and teaching your child. It's not schooling at home, what is general first idea that okay, homeschooling, you're going to teach a child at home. It's not that, but you have to, it's a lifestyle that you embrace. And then there's a lot of you have to try and test so many different things to see what works for your child, the learning styles. So we tried Pinterest, we tried worksheets. So right now it's a lot of reading books, audio books, and conversations, a lot of play. I realized that children learn a lot through play, and there are so many things that she comes up with audiobooks. So audiobooks have become an integral part of our life now. So the beautiful part about this is it keeps changing, and it's also one of the challenges.
well, beautifully shared, Supriya. Lily, now you're back, so we would like to go to you. And why don't you share about how you started homeschooling? But before you begin, I'm going to just welcome Ruchi. Ruchi is an integral part of our admin team, and she has so much to offer. So after Lily shares about how she started, we are going to go over to Ruchi, who will introduce herself and share about how she started homeschooling. Yes, Lily.
I think I started a little bit blindly. Sorry. Not knowing the end result and what it will be. Uh, I don't think we have to have all the answers. We have to take it one step at a time. And, I've seen other people doing it. And my biggest trial as a child was not having enough time with my parents, not being known by my parents. And homeschooling gave me that opportunity to have a relationship with my children. I think that was the basis why I chose homeschooling. And of course, you can say I was privileged to meet other people who did homeschooling, and I like the concept. I met people who had good children and people who were not that great on homeschooling and so on. But for me, the idea was to have a relationship with my kids. I think this is the basics for me. Because as I progress into homeschooling, what I know now, I wish I would have known in the beginning. But
Right.
I don't think my children have suffered because of that. I think it's also like with everything, you just take one step at a time and see how it goes. And then another step, and then another step, and then you are always free to change.
True. Wow. Wow. Lily, you brought out such an important point
I
of
hope it makes sense.
relationship with your child and going step by step. That's wonderfully said. So I'm going to go over to Ruchi. Ruchi, why don't you introduce yourself first and then share?
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm Ruchi. I live in Chennai. I started homeschooling my kids when my son was in third grade and my daughter was in first grade. And we were living in Pune at the time. So we started homeschooling in Pune. We were there for about 5 years homeschooling, and then we have shifted here. And initially, my kids were in a very traditional preschool where they would get homework at the age of 4, and they loved it, and I loved it. I didn't know any better. So, my kids were learning and doing homework, and it was very like, uniform and, very organized. And so, yeah, they were in preschool. And then when it came time for school admission, they went to an IB school. And even over there, I was very involved as a parent in all of the committees. And I would go to school for meetings at least once a week. And I think that's what really kind of opened my eyes to homeschooling, because I kind of saw what was behind the curtain, and I started seeing how much time gets wasted in a day and in a school year when, especially my son, he was so curious to learn. He wanted to learn so many things, but the teachers had a very rigid approach, and, they would teach according to what was in the syllabus for that year. And if the child wanted to learn extra, if the child wanted to go a little bit slow, that was not an option because there are 30 kids in the class. And, IB says that they will cater and that they, separate kids into groups. But the school that my kids were going to just wasn't doing that. And I gave them time, to see if they would start, because my son wanted to learn multiplication, I remember, in grade 2, and it just wasn't taught. Then we reached grade 3 and they still weren't teaching it because they said, some of the kids aren't ready, so we're not teaching any of the kids. So, which is perfectly fine. And then in handwriting, my son was very slow. He did not want to write anything. Whenever an assessment would come that was written, he just wouldn't bother. He would write 1-word answers where 20-word answers were required. So he wasn't getting points. And I mean, I didn't care. And so the teachers were also somewhat accommodating. I remember they would give him verbal assessments because they said he doesn't like to write. So let him, speak and give the answer. So they were nice and accommodating in that way. But I could just see the trajectory that it was going to take. And I just felt like, my kids have all these special qualities and skills, which I find special. I think all parents find their own children special. And getting them to conform and fit into the box, I felt like, all their special qualities would kind of go away and they would be sanded down. So there were many reasons for homeschooling. Another reason was that my husband was extremely busy and we hardly ever saw him. And, on weekdays, he would be off at work and he would come home really late at night. But because my kids had to wake up early, they would sleep early. So they couldn't meet him during weekdays. They would only see him on weekends. So I just decided that, the school just took over everything. Like, your holidays, there would be like some holiday homework, or, like, when can you travel? When can you not travel? Can you attend a wedding, family member's wedding? Can you not attend? It just felt like a very intrusive, presence in our lives. And I remember when we actually started homeschooling, I just felt free. I felt like there was no limit to what we could do and what we could achieve. And we've been homeschooling now for 6 years, and I still feel that way. I still feel like, there's no limit. So when my son was in 6th grade, he was doing 9th grade algebra because he wanted to, and he was good at it. And there was no one telling him no, and the teacher was willing to take him. And same with my daughter, whatever subject they have wanted to learn in their lives, I have just found them a teacher that works. So during the pandemic, they joined an online school. So they enjoyed that also. Now my son has quit that school. He's going to be joining a learning center. And of course, the learning centers all want to know what board, because boards are like so important. And we're very clear, we don't want a board because we don't want the limitation of a board. If he wants to do Cambridge for math and NIOS for history, he should be allowed to do that. We just don't want to commit to one single board. So, this theme of freedom has just always is just one theme that always comes back when, we talk about homeschooling. And really, we feel like, we're completely free and, without limits. So that was why we started homeschooling.
I love the point that you make here, that you don't want to be limited by the boards. That's such a crucial point that you have made. And I'm going to go over to Saurav so that he also gets to share about why did he start homeschooling and how did he start? How was the beginning phase? His son is just 5 years old, so relatively new to the to this field, but he has immense and knowledge and experience to share. Yes, Saurav, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So while listening to everyone, I knew that the question is coming, so I was reflecting, and I was trying to figure out what exactly I have done. So basically, once I became a father, my son came into this world. Uh, I reflected on my own life, and I tried to figure out what are the things that I have missed out, and I will make sure that my son will get. So one of the thing that I saw is that coming from a science background, I'm doing something else totally. I'm into a different kind of a world. And what made me choose those things which has brought me here in this stage of my life? And then I decided, let's go slow. I chat with my wife that let's not hurry up with his schooling or learning process. Let's take some time and figure out what are the other options available. Being in a city like Mumbai, education is quite expensive, which is a practical thing that I cannot ignore. And then I started to explore. I started to dig into things, and I came across, as far as I remember, one of the reasons, one of the data that I came across, which I still clearly remember. It's a 2017-18 data from the UNICEF, which says that in our India there are 1.5 million schools, and in those schools there are 8.5 million teachers. But when we come to the number of children that they are catering, is 250 million. And if we remove all the millions, we can see the ratio is 1.5 is to 8.5 is to 250. I can clearly see some difficulty, and that made me cautious. That made me think twice, thrice that what I am doing. And then naturally I started to explore more into this all these alternative forms. I am from Calcutta. I am very well aware of Shanti Niketan. I was very well aware of Rabindranath being homeschooled. So all those things started to flash back in my mind. I started to decide, reflect ki, what to choose, what not to choose. And then slowly, I think when I started my exploration from 2018-19 onwards, I started to travel. I started to meet with a lot of parents, educators, alternative institutions, what they are doing, why they are doing, alternative forms of life. Things became quite clear that yes, there are better options, there are different options. And one of the prime reasons which made me choose not to send my child to a school till date is I am not in favor of employment. So school generate, uh, I mean, service people employment, but my personal belief is that I think there are more to employment. So that's the thing I'm exploring. I'm still learning. That's right now where I am.
It's so interesting, Saurav. And just for the audience to know, Saurav has not only been involved in self learning about various educational approaches, but he also believes that whatever he learns can also be shared with many. And which is why he has a project called Project Nomad, where he shares documentaries on educational approaches that are being followed throughout the country, and also interviews with various people who are living life differently or on their terms, and they are learning all the time. So that's really interesting and commendable. Do check Project Nomad whenever you get the time. Now, to answer this question for myself, I think I've shared it in on many platforms as to how we started. It was basically just as Ruchi said, there was some unhappiness with the kind of schooling system that was there, and there was no alignment between what my children wanted to learn and what was being taught. And that was where that was what motivated me to get into homeschooling. I initially started by getting inside the system, so I actually started teaching and facilitating, and that was a huge learning because I saw that what was true for my children was true for all the other children. And that's where I realized that there's some problem with the system. Yet we kept trying different alternate schools, regular schools, and finally it was my son who said that, Mama, I would like to homeschool. And that was when we opened up our eyes, ears to what he was saying and what he was trying to communicate with us. And that's when our journey began. And how did we start? I think I started by doing a lot of learning and self learning around what is homeschooling, what is unschooling, what are the different approaches. I also went on an inward journey to understand myself better. And apart from that, I met a lot of families who were homeschooling. My children started spending a lot of time with other homeschooling families. Initially, I wanted to bring in curriculum. I wanted to bring in I kept feeling, learning has to happen, and learning can happen only when I teach, or when I do something, or I give them exposure, or I take them to workshops and courses and so on. But gradually I realized and I learned that what my children needed was to be left alone so that they could find their own path. And that's what we did. And today we are on a very different path where my oldest is giving his IGCSE exams um, in February, that's next month. And for 4 years, he had not done any academic work. And in 1 year, he caught up. He caught up with everything that he had missed. Now, my second one is displaying interest in giving exams. So we have just started. In fact, from January onwards, we've started doing math and English in a structured manner with him. And it's been a journey because when he was really small, when we started homeschooling, when we started unschooling, he was 9, and now he's 13. And oh, it's a joy because he comes with an element of freshness which I wouldn't have seen if he was probably going to school. He would have learned all the textbook answers and what was expected by teachers. So it's a beautiful journey. My daughter wanted to experience schooling. So right now she is enrolled at a school, at a local alternate school here. However, since she doesn't like online learning, she most often bunks and most often is doing whatever she wants. So she's just 7. Now, quickly, we'll go on to the next topic that we thought was important before we start with the questions that are coming up. There are quite a few questions that are there in the comment section, which sort of will take in another 5 to 10 minutes. I would like all of us to share about how did we decide about what curriculum we follow and what do we teach our children. And Ruchi has already shared that she didn't want to be limited by the board, and she was okay with doing NIOS in one subject and IGCSE and IB in some other subjects. So she was fine with that. So that's how she did plan. But let's go to Lily over here because her children right from day one have been learning differently, and she has had to decide on what curriculums to follow for each one of them being very different in personality. So over to you, Ruchi. Why don't you, sorry, Lily, why don't you
Mm.
share about how did you decide what curriculum to follow, and how did the whole process happen of teaching, learning basically, you know?
It's difficult to say. Like I said, I wasn't as wise then as I am now. First of all, so um, the homeschool curriculum that I choose, it's international homeschooling curriculum. It was based on my family beliefs, you can say, and views. And also, the curriculum gave freedom to the children to go with certain subjects ahead and other subjects to remain slower according to the child wish. So that was the beauty of the curriculum I chose. Like they can go in math ahead, they can stay behind, and so on. But it was structured enough for me that I had peace of mind. You know, when you are early into homeschooling and you grew up in a system that had a curriculum, that's the main fear, that you don't have a structure. What will your child learn? So those are very real fear you have as a parent. Will the children be able to make it in life? Would they be able to go to a university if they so choose? Or things that we have been brainwashed since we were children, that a diploma is everything in your life for a better life. So those are very real in my life. So for me, having that structure curriculum, it kind of eliminate those fear from my life in the beginning, and it helped me focus on the children needs. I don't know if that makes sense, but that it didn't feel so completely out of your comfort zone as a parent, like what it will happen, and what if I don't teach the basics, and what this and what that. In reality, when my children went through different stages, like learning to read, learning simple math, I realized that those things were not necessarily so important as it was my relationship with my children being very clean and straight, as to that if you have a happy family, if you have a good communication, the children were at peace, they were happy, and they naturally wanted to learn. Like it taught me to be flexible to their needs. It taught me that if they have a question, to go with the question and answer their question and not be afraid. It helped me to not take for granted questions that for us seem naive, like why do I put the fork and spoon at the table, for example? Why do you have to put these things? Because children ask because they want to learn. So whenever the children will ask a question, it was an opportunity for learning, you can say, not for teaching, for learning from both my side to learn my children, and from their side to understand life. Or why do you think a person is not good, or why do you think a person is bad? And discussion of this sort appear in your day-to-day interaction, which school do not provide. And I think I deviate from the question. I forgot what you asked me, Sharmila. You
You're
asked me
right
why did
there.
I
You're
choose the curriculum.
right.
Yeah.
No, you're right there, Lily. In fact, you've made many crucial points about
Okay.
how relationship is
So
important, both by the
that's
patient. Mhm.
yes. I think it's up to each parents to realize that primarily they are responsible for their kids, and not the system, not the country, not the city, but they, because the child is born to them and they are responsible for that life. And that's how we are accountable, by providing children with peace, with freedom and love. so we can nurture those, and then knowledge will bloom. Just, like the school are teaching facts and figures and formulas and everything, but they do not teach human interaction. They do not teach that side of uh, human development, relationship and being at peace with yourself. To the contrary, I discover a lot of children or teenagers, they are tear apart these days by bullying, by calling names, by, who's richer, who's poorer, who's wearing what, who has, who doesn't have. And the family unit provides that strength if it's done in the right way. Okay,
Wow.
I let somebody
Yeah.
else. There is so much
Wow.
more to cover.
So many important points, Lily. I'm sure your points are like pearls of wisdom,
Yeah,
that people would soak in and take in and reflect
I
on.
don't know.
Um, I would, it's already 30 minutes. I would love to hear from Supriya, Saurav also as to how they have chosen their curriculum. But I can also see a whole list of questions that are coming up. So I think, Saurav, why don't we go over the questions, and while answering those questions, maybe Supriya also touches on what curriculum she follows. I could do that. I'm hoping Ruchi is back. She does have connectivity issues. I'm hoping she's back and she's also there. So over to you, Saurav. Why don't we start taking the questions?
Yeah, so we will take some questions from the Facebook post first of all. There are few common questions, as we can see, which have been posted on the earlier post and also on the live that we are doing right now. So let me read this out. Chesta Prakash Rao is asking that I want to know which curriculum to follow for a 7 years old kid, NIOS or IGCSE, and how to enroll for the above as I am new at this. I will surely attend the session. Okay. It will be of great help to all the parents who are thinking to homeschool their children. Okay. So basically, the question is how to enroll a 7 years old child to a NIOS or IGCSE.
Okay. Since Supriya's child is 7, almost 7, and even my daughter is around 7, why don't we both take this question? And Supriya, why don't you just share what you feel?
Thank you, Sharmila. So, actually, to tell you frankly, I've not thought of a separate curriculum. We follow from the past 3 years on observing and all doing all this trial and test methods of what works, what doesn't work. What I like to call our style of homeschooling is more a relaxed homeschooling or eclectic homeschooling. So, wherein we choose what we want, how we want to learn certain things. So, there's no specific curriculum that we follow. I take a lot of stuff from Pinterest, and there's like several other websites like Teacher Pay Teachers, education.com, and Pinterest that has loads of activities. So to so English generally comes using by reading books. We play name place animal thing, that is a new thing that has started. So both of us are involved. Um, so spellings, names of places, names of animals, everything comes up there. So earlier I used to fret about, oh, is she going to, does she know the spelling? Is it coming correctly? But then I realized that the more they read, the easier it is for them to. At least I think that's how it's coming through for us. And she seems to be liking this new name place animal thing game, so it's working out fine in that aspect. When it comes to math, we try crosswords. Those math crosswords. I found those on Pinterest. So at this point in time, you basically need to know a few basic things like you need to know how to read, uh, which she is doing. I won't say you need to know, but it's good to know, as in each child takes their own pace. Every individual grows at their own pace at there, so I wouldn't force the child there. but you read to the child. I read a lot to her. Um, and now she has started reading by herself as well. And then in case of science and geography, and so we travel, so you talk about places. Again, history comes in conversation. So I would summarize it as and also audiobooks like Magic Tree House brings in a lot of fiction along sorry, non-fiction along with fiction. And there's also this amazing podcast called Reading Bug. Again, shares goes on adventures wherein you have non-fiction along with fiction. So she has picked up a lot of stuff from there. So as of now, we have not thought of a specific curriculum. It's like bits and pieces from everywhere.
Right. Wow. That's so interesting, and it is so similar to to our journey also. Like, okay, my boys were in school during these years, till they were around 9, 10. But my daughter hasn't been to school. So for us, it was more about uh, she what we felt was she needed to use her hands and her heart and her head too. So it was more about uh, using your head in terms of whatever ideas you have in your mind, you need to put them across in whatever way you are equipped with and with whatever resources that you have. So she indulged in a lot of craft activities on her own. She would do a lot of paper cutting and gluing things together, and she would come up with these ideas that she wanted to make doll dresses. So it would all be like, okay, I'm going to use a balloon to cut and make a doll dress. Socks, we have lost so many socks because she wanted to make doll dresses, and we just let her, and never I going to just say that they were never beautiful as such, but they were what she wanted to create, and they were her experiments, and which we encouraged. We did suffer a loss because we often found one socks and the other pair missing and so on. She also, and she was crazy about colored paper and paper that I used for my own activities, and she never wanted to reuse paper and so on. So that was also a journey for us. So we did a whole lot of that, apart from, because I do a lot of gardening. She got involved in gardening. She would be there with me when I was cooking, so in the kitchen, and plus two older brothers. So whatever activities they were involved with, Legos, cars, dolls, everything. She just had all that. She self-learned to read, which was a joy, because there was a time when she couldn't sit even for a minute to listen to a book that I read to her. So we just let that be. But in the past 1 year, I've seen she's picked up reading. Now she reads Roald Dahl's with me. So we both read. We've read a couple of books and we are on to the next. She likes Amelia Bedelia, so that's a lot of joy that we have a few of those. So she's reading those, apart from her Julia Donaldson's, which she reads over and over again. She loves those stories. And maths has been part of our life from day one, because I always believed that math, a sense of quantity is developed as you grow. So there was a lot of counting, then a lot of so counting with anything and everything. You count stairs, you count the number of times you go on the slide, you count the vegetables, you count everything. And very naturally, all my three children shifted from counting to skip counting to addition to subtraction, and playing board games and games like Dobbles and many other games. So that's how our life has been. Recently she's got into cursive writing, something that I am totally against, but she just loves it, and she's learning it on her own, because I do have a huge collection of books, being a facilitator myself at schools. So I do have a collection of books, and so she dug out two cursive writing books and she's been doing that. So we are enjoying that too. So for us, it's completely child led. Right now, we don't follow any curriculums, but we do feel that basic knowledge about the world around her is important. and that anyway she's curious about. She's curious about everything, so she herself watches YouTube videos, reads books, looks through information books and so on to gain information, and also asks us questions. So that's how it is for us. And would Ruchi or Lily, would you like to share how it was for you when your children were younger?
Yeah, I would actually.
Yes, Ruchi.
So, when we initially started, we thought homeschooling would be workbooks on the dining table. So, I had collected these workbooks, and we used to be amazed that within half an hour, they would be done with, their daily, or half an hour, maybe like 1 hour, they would be done with all their daily learning. And then we would just go out and play and, have adventures in the city. While all of their other classmates were still in school. So I remember there was like a little bit of, we thought that that's what learning would be. We stopped doing that. And like Sharmila and Supriya both said, learning is everywhere. There's no learning time and not learning time. Everything that they do is learning. So today, if my son plays a video game for 4 hours straight, he has learned something by the end of it. He puts effort into it, researches something, he plays the game 4 hours, and it gets done. But I think the problem with choosing a board early on is that we're kind of limiting our kids, and we cannot predict the future, and we don't know what they will want to do later in life. So at 7, deciding what they'll do at 16, it kind of again puts them in a little bit of a box. So I think if there are any parents who are wondering which board, and your child is only 7, maybe take a step back and remember that boards come much later. That's when they're 15, 16, 17, you have to think about those things. Right now, it's just about the love of learning. And, as long as they can enjoy learning and do things when they're ready and in their own way, learn whatever subjects need to be learned, boards, can come much later, and you can decide the board later. You don't have to commit right now to NIOS or Cambridge or ICSC or CBSE. So I think that I know a lot of parents really worry, which board should I choose? Well, let the kids decide. Let them get a little bit older and they'll tell you what they want to do, and they'll tell you which board works best for them. So that's just what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Lovely. Ruchi, Lily, do you want to add something?
Um, yes, yes. Yes, I was just thinking about reading that I think in the first interview I explained how my sons learn reading differently. And my third son surprised us by knowing how to read without any, how you call it, push from our side. He just wanted to read. And having 3 kids has exposed me to the different characters. Although they are all 3 brothers, they come from the same parents, they are so different. Like my elder son is not a showy character, for example. He's more quiet, how you call it, doesn't show off what he knows. So many times as a parent, I wanted to know if he knows, to test him, to drill him. And it was so discouraging because he will not answer to me. But then suddenly, in a casual talk with his dad, he will bring up figures and points about history and geography that I said, where did you learn it from? He said, I read, because he was interested. He wanted to learn. So you cannot really know just by test how your kids are doing with learning. And just to remind everybody, math, for example, it's a subject that the school boards can destroy the love for math simply by focusing only on the end result rather than on the process and on the children comprehension, because they will look at the end result, who's fastest, who's answer faster, who can answer the problem, and they're given the formula, and whoever can apply the formula to the problem, it's labeled as a good at math. But the kid might not comprehend at all what is happening in that problem and why the formula is needed and how to apply it on day-to-day life. And from like Ruchi said, there is a period in the children's life from grade 1 to grade 8, you can say, or from 7 to 13, 14, 15, where a child needs to have developed the love for learning rather than to be into a rat race to get the marks A or B or 100% or 90%, which kills the love for learning, which kills the comprehension and the desire to learn. It's all about, I got the score and I'm done now. I don't want to know anything and everything, which pressurizing the kids in that way, you're making them dumb, not smarter,
Right.
because they develop I don't want to learn. I'm done. Don't put me into this. We hate it when we go to work, when we are put in that situation. Why would we bring it to the children at that young age when they need a safe environment, an environment that inspire learning, not that takes away from the desire to learn.
Wow.
And that's all I want to say.
Yeah. Beautifully
I hope.
shared, Lily. And Saurav, would you like to say a few words? Your son is 5. I'm sure he's doing a lot of things all around the house right now. So why don't you share?
I don't have anything to share because it's just fun time we are having. There is no structure. He has been
Mhm.
to what to say, a play school just at the time when the world went into the lockdown stage. So that also didn't work out, and it's just from then onwards it's all fun time. He is playing all around. There is nothing we are offering. He whatever he chooses, but I have seen him, there are books, there are phonics books, there are number books. He takes out on his own. He reads the number, he reads the phonic on his own. And the most interesting thing is that he has started, I mean, few languages he has started on his own. We haven't uh, you know uh, put those words in his mouth. Somehow he has figured out. So what we are talking here is the curiosity of a child to learn and the love to learn. That exists, I think, in all the children equally. It is just that by sending to the by sending the children to somewhere, we are killing those things. So we need to take care of that thing.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing. So, sort of, let's go to the next question. I know we are short of
Yes.
time. Let's
Yeah,
look
so
at.
we will try to answer them as quickly as possible. So another question from the Facebook post is from Baidehi Kunal Doshi. My child will be 2 years in the coming March. What would be the way forward after initially a few years of homeschooling? Do we have to register for course every year? How do we go about with the syllabus and schedule?
Who would like to take it? I'm sure all of us have the same answer over here.
It has to be quick.
Yes,
Okay, I'll
Ruchi.
just answer quickly.
Yeah.
2-year-olds enjoy the baby phase. They're so sweet, they're so cute. Just enjoy. There's nothing to enroll for. Homeschooling is not an organized system. It is completely disorganized, and it's a spectrum. You can choose on this spectrum whatever you want. You can change from unschooling into homeschooling, homeschooling into unschooling, from unschooling into regular schooling whenever you want. That there are no limitations. My kids used to homeschool, then we unschooled, then they enrolled in a school. Now they're free again. So just your child is to just enjoy. There's nothing to enroll for. Thank you.
Great. Yes, sort
Wonderful.
of,
We
let's
will.
move to the next question.
Yeah, so I will pop this up on the screen, or we can see the question. Hello, there are these are the questions from my 8 years old in his own words. Okay, how to focus while learning and not get distracted? Let's go one by one. So the first question is how to focus while learning and not get distracted.
Okay. Can I take this? Yeah, okay. It's wonderful to hear an 8-year-old ask this question. I think just keep doing whatever you enjoy doing. You're just 8 years old. The learning just happens. It's right there among all the things that you are interested in and you like doing. So, yeah, you'll never get distracted if you're learning things and doing things that you want to.
Okay. And the next question with it, how to make friends while homeschooling. This is a nice one.
Supriya,
I'll
would you
take
like
that
to take
one.
it?
Oh, sorry. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah, maybe
Should I take it?
Supriya takes it and then you
Okay,
add on.
Supriya. Go ahead, Supriya.
See, friends, you can just, you have people around you, you live in a community, you can have friends there. You go for classes, whatever, like, your sports classes or um, any other dance class or whatever, extracurricular, whatever you're doing there, that's where you make friends. You can, if you go to a library, you meet people, you can make friends there. You can make friends anywhere. So, you can it doesn't have to be limited to school to making friends. It depends upon your nature, on how you interact with people, and then you can build conversations and then build a connection with them, and that's how friends happen.
Ruchi, want to add on?
I do. And also with homeschooling, a lot of the socialization really depends on the parents because our children kind of depend on us to organize the play dates and meet other homeschoolers because we don't all live in places where our children can easily socialize. So I think another thing that parents have to remember is, first of all, socialization, like Supriya said, is completely natural. But it's so easy to find members in your community who are homeschooling and like-minded. And so, we have one group in Chennai and we meet often, we chat often. Pune has a huge homeschooling community. They meet very often. So socialization happens. It's natural. And the nice thing about homeschooling is that you're not limited to only being friends with specific age group. You can be friends with anyone of any age group. They can be much older, much younger. What matters most is that you're like-minded and you have the same interests. And as an adult, I think we also socialize the same way. I'm friends with people who are not exactly my age. They'll be a few years older, a few years younger, but what we have in common is our interests. So I think for a child, definitely it will happen naturally. Your parents will have to take a little bit more initiative. And yeah, once it happens, it's great because it's better to mix with people who have similar interests than mix with people who are only the exact same age as you.
Yeah,
So that's my
yeah,
answer. Thank
yeah.
you.
I'd like to add one thing over here for parents to think and reflect on. Every child is different, and some children are very happy being with themselves and just having a few friends here and there. It doesn't mean that every child needs a huge social circle. So I think that's something that parents need to keep in mind, and sometimes let the child lead the way for you too. So the child will show that they are interested in knowing or playing with one particular child more than the others, and that's where you need to step in and make it happen for your children, because while they are children, it's the parent who makes it happen for them. So yeah,
All right. I think the next part of this question has already been answered because the
answered.
parents is asking ki how to socialize being a nuclear family. So let's take up the next question. Let's see. Hi, I wanted to understand what are the options after class 12. Also, like Ruchi mentioned, different boards for different subjects. How does that work?
Okay.
Okay, so I'll address that. So actually, Sharmila, if you could take the options after class 12, I'll just quickly tell about the different boards. So what I
Sure,
did
sure.
was I got like for math, I brought a ICSC book, CBSC, and Cambridge book, and the kids just went through it and looked at the books and chose which one they wanted to do. So they both ended up choosing Cambridge board for math. I think social sciences was one subject that CBSE looked more interesting, so my daughter chose that. So they're learning on their own. You know, they're not accountable to anybody. In the middle of the year, sometimes they would lose interest in one board and go into another board for the same subject, which is also fine. One thing I used to do is I used to ask people in my building for their old books. So if they had a kid who was in CBSE or an ICSE and 1 year older, 2 year older, 2 years older than my kid, I would ask them for their books when the school year was done. So I had those books ready at home for my kids to go through. So you can choose any board for any subject. There's no one who's gonna, you know, keep track, and you're not answerable to anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I'll just add one more thing that, knowledge is knowledge, right? Whether you follow a CBSE, ICSE, or an IB or a Cambridge board, a plant is a plant. The parts of the plants are going to be the same, and how they grow is going to be the same. So the knowledge is usually the same. It is addressed differently by different boards. So maybe some syllabuses may cover more and some may cover less. But if you go by the pace of your child, then there's no issue, because your child might want to learn more in certain subjects and less in certain other subjects, or just what is being taught across boards in certain subjects. So that's fine. And this, I believe, is true till, say, around your child is old enough to, or starts preparing for some goal oriented studies, like appearing for boards. Now when you're appearing for boards, the entire game is different, because now you're focused towards studying to give a particular exam and to do well. So now since your goal is different, then that's where I think you need to be very careful on what board you choose for your child to give your or board exams. So in India, we have the option of NIOS and we have Cambridge. Now, both comes with its pros and cons, but I think if you study each of the board, their websites explain everything very well. So do go through their website. This is a study that I believe every parent needs to do along with their child. We can give you ready-made answers, but those probably might pertain to us as individuals or as a family, but not for you as a family. I would say look through each board, read, study it, and decide something that is beneficial for your child. Beneficial in the sense, I would just say that if your child wants admissions in a government college for their their university studies, that's their graduation studies, then I would definitely advise you to go for an NIOS board, because that makes admissions easier. Applying for entrance tests with government institutes is much easier if you do NIOS. But if you are looking at a global, uh, you want to probably go abroad or study abroad, or want admissions in a private institute, say like Kriya or Ashoka or Azim Premji, then I think IGCSE does make sense, because there is an element of receiving an equivalent certificate from the all India universities, which right now private candidates of IGCSE board do not get. And then that makes it difficult for IGCSE board children to give entrance tests which are laid out by the government institutes. But private institutes, there's no problem. There are no issues in getting admissions. So just keep that in mind. We are also trying to put together a group of homeschoolers who would fight the cause of getting AIU to give equivalent certificates to children who give the IGCSE ANES level exams. So hoping that also change happens within the next few years. So yeah, so that's it. What options after 12? You have all options. There all options are available for you, that the same as are available to school going children. So don't worry about what options, and don't feel that certain option you cannot do certain things just because you have homeschooled. Everything is open and things are opening up. Our new new education policy is also pro homeschoolers, so don't worry about that right now. Yeah.
All right. Shall we move forward then?
Okay,
I
I
think
have a
Lily
point.
wants to share something.
Yeah,
Yes,
Lily,
Lily.
go ahead. Yeah.
I unmuted. So I wanted to go to the idea that every single child will not follow a university. We have to
Yes.
take that out of our mind because we feel like a failure if our children do not follow a university, but that's not the whole goal of education. Uh, I wanted to go back to what is the motivation why your children are learning. You have to define it as a parent. It's not money making, it's being useful by what you make. A good doctor is a doctor who fell in love with the idea of healing people, not a doctor who fell in love with making money as a career. A good engineer is somebody who is in love with the mechanics and wants to make a better car and who wants to make life easier by, and he is drawn by that idea rather that is an engineer. A good auto mechanic, it's a good auto mechanic. A good chef is in love with the food he's making and so on. Is not in love with the money he's making. That it's like a secondary idea. Teach your children that being useful is what is going to bring their income, not the diploma. Sorry, I interfere, but I think that is very important because this is
Yes.
for majority or homeschoolers. That's the idea why we enter into the homeschooling. That the children are learning, the children understand the concepts. We had different interviews on Saturday Lives where different parents explained how there was, I don't remember the name, I'm sorry, but there was a couple in Hyderabad who do traveling schooling, and they were explaining how the daughters were able to foresee where the water is without having the scientific knowledge, by just by using their power of mind and thinking for themselves. And I think that was a wonderful sample. That's all I wanted to say.
Yes, yes. So this is, and it's such a crucial point that, somewhere in our psyche, we feel that higher education is a must to gain employability skills, to be able to get a job and so on. But today, a lot of homeschoolers are making it without having professional degrees, because finally, what counts is your skill and your knowledge, and not a degree from a premium institute. So I think, yes, Lily makes a very crucial point. um, Sort of, let's take the next one.
Yes. Okay. Here is the next question. What was the key expectation to change over to homeschooling? What does the Where does the school fall short and homeschooling work better and vice versa?
So I think Ruchi did mention many of the drawbacks of schooling that she experienced while her children were at school, and I have also shared what I felt very briefly. But we have, since we are short of time, I think let's sort of, could we go to the next question, unless anyone wants to share any more points on this question.
Yeah, just briefly.
Yes, Ruchi.
Concise. So the main thing is that, you know, when as a human being, you have a certain, you know, personality. And if you try to conform and you're trying to pretend, you can only do it for so long. So for my kids, I saw them trying to conform and be like their classmates and have the same interests as their classmates, even if it wasn't natural for them. So now, after many years of homeschooling, I can finally see that my daughter says, I really like myself. I'm really different. Whereas before, she used to say, I don't like being different. I want to be like my friends. I want to be like my classmates. I want their hairstyle. I want their bag, you know, the way that, you know, so it's being happy with yourself as an individual instead of trying to conform to a herd. I think that's the main place where homeschooling really helps the child flourish versus schooling. That's all.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Next question. Uh, Homeschool from Bangkok. Okay. Relocate to India. My son with G2 next year. How to start register for homeschooling in India? Basically, that's the question. How to register?
So we are very lucky, you know. In India, there is no legal formal system where homeschoolers have to register themselves. So it's great that you're relocating it to India, and you can just start homeschooling. You don't have to register anywhere for it. Mm.
All right. Next question quickly. Without having pressure to complete homework and project work while being homeschooled, won't that be won't that have an impact later in life when they face pressure and deadlines in their jobs?
Okay. Who'd like to take it?
I'll go.
Okay,
Ah!
I don't think so. They will not feel any pressure unless they are pressurized to go in the job that they don't like. To the contrary, I think that the homeschooler have the privilege to learn earlier on to be accountable, to be responsible, and shine on. Like, for example, I hire my kids part time in the job that I do part time for self support, and I am able even to send them on their own to perform instead of me. And many parents react to the fact, like, wow, your kids are so responsible. They are kind. They take their job more responsible than an adult, because they're enjoying it. So I don't think they suffer in any way. I think to the contrary, they are much more there. We all have experiences with people that either we hire or we work with who you feel like you have to do their job. They are there just for the payment rather than actually doing the job. And you're being homeschooled, that is not there. For them, it's the pleasure to do it. They want to do it. They want to learn. Okay. Again, I deviated. I let
Totally
somebody
agree.
else. But I don't think they
Yeah.
suffer
So
in
Priya,
any
you
way.
want
To the
so
I
Priya,
just
you
contrary.
want
wanted
to
to add
add
in.
to
To the
something? Yeah.
contrary, if they don't know the answer, they will know how to research and they will come with the answer.
Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. So Priya, you want to add something?
Yes. So, one of the things that I felt was homeschooling opens up avenues to explore emotional intelligence, which kind of you lack when you get into the schooling system because you're with the herd. And emotional intelligence is something we really, really need to work on. And I feel that it gives us an opportunity to work on that, like together as a family. Those conversations that you build on. It's not it's something that you work on together as a family, and I can see that my daughter at 7 can is pretty clear about the ideas that she has, and I feel that it's about the growth mindset and the the values of emotional intelligence that we try to introduce in as a family kind of helps. And I'm sure that this will also it's growing with her, like empathy, everything comes in together and it all ties down together. So any kind of pressure, I'm sure, in case they come across any kind of pressure, or like whether you go to school or you don't go to school, pressure and meeting deadlines or whatever, like you everybody comes in kind of some kind of pressure at some point in time, but it depends on the individual and not whether you go to school or not. It depends upon the people that you interact with, the environment that you grow into, right? So it's similar to socialization. It's all the personality.
True. True. Yes. Okay. Maybe we could go to the next.
Okay, here is another. Would the child feel irritated being at home pretty much the entire day while being homeschooled?
Yeah, what I would say is, one is it wrong to feel irritated? You know, these are all very natural emotions, and it's what do you do once your child expresses his irritation is the key to your answer. You know, if you get irritated too because your child is irritated, God, it's like you've ruined the situation. But if you're just there, and if you just tell your child it's okay to feel irritated, let's talk about it whenever you're ready. I think the child actually expresses what their need is, and once you know their need, then you can work on that need, right? As a parent, as I say, you can make it happen for your child. You can work on that need and work along with your child to resolve that problem or the challenge or the need that the child has. Yeah.
Anyone else wants to add?
I just want to add one thing.
Hmm.
Yes. I want to add that a lot of the times in the past, for example, in my country, they used to say the 7 years from home. You don't have your 7 years from home. We have to remember that 80% of a child character is formed before the age of 5. And how he feels and how he interacts further depends on us as parents. We are the basis for that child. So instead of looking only at the children, we have to look at us as a parents, how we can grow and allow the children needs to change us. I don't know how if I say it right, but when we have the children change you. It changes your view about love. It changes your view about being unselfish and being needed and giving your life for another person for their benefits and everything. And those are little steps that we also grow step by step along with the child. Like uh, we are also learner in the same process that they are learners from other things from us. We teach each other. It's like a teamwork in some ways. And if we have that basics till 5 years, then later on there is not so much things. It's like normal that you'll be irritated. It's normal that you get angry sometimes. It's normal that you are frustrated. It's all about if earlier on you had that time to communicate with your child and develop that relationship that they can express or not. A child who go to the school can be very irritated and never being able to express it to the parents, and later on at the age of 12, 13, you have a super rebellious child which you don't know even how to communicate with as a parent because you haven't spent time with your child. You don't know your child. You don't know who he is. He's just there, part of your family, but there is no relationship. So what do you do then if you haven't spent those time earlier?
True. So true.
So I think that I don't know if the question was meant as irritation or it was meant more like, is the child getting bored doing homeschool all day long? Or maybe he's not understood what homeschooling is because homeschooling it's like a way of life. It's teaching as you go. Wherever you go, you teach your child. It's not even teaching, it's just that relationship. You are constantly in communication with your children. You don't expect them to be perfect, just as do you don't expect you to be perfect. And that's a relationship that you grow into.
True.
Okay,
All right.
that's all I wanted to
So
say.
let's move forward. Next question is a little big one. I will summarize it. So, 12 years old homeschooling child was extremely curious about everything around, but when he started to, play Minecraft and all, somehow things changed. So basically, the question is how to keep your child interested in other things when screen time and video game gets so addictive.
I Once again, I ask parents, what is wrong with screens and video games, and why isn't it okay if if your child plays video games all day? Just to give you an example, my boys had been, since we started unschooling, that's the past 4 years. They they were they were only on their gadgets all the time. Today I have now their interests have changed. Now I have my oldest who's giving his IGCSE exams. He has planned his own schedule. He makes time to follow his passion. He's self learning to play the guitar. He helps in the house. He washes bathrooms too. He washed 2 bathrooms today. I was so happy about that. And my second one is slowly moving out. He's no longer addicted to his gadget. He's playing frisbee. He's started. He wants to give his board exams. He hasn't yet decided which board, so we are going to use the next few months to weigh and measure each board. But he's out of it. So once they, you know if you just trust your children, they find things to do. And it's okay. They learn a lot through video games too, and through their screens too. There's so much, and they are focused. It's like a project for them, where they want to, so their goal is to finish one level and go to the next. They and then they so I don't know, I don't see any problem with that. So
I'd like to add something, Sharmila, if you're
yes,
done.
Ruchi. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm done.
we do have limits. My kids also, my son especially is obsessed with the video games and he can play for 10, 12 hours nonstop. But we do have limits in the house, and those rules apply to everyone in the house. And the rule is very basically that first you have to do the things that you have to do, and then you get to do the things that you want to do. So, for me, it's my chores. I have to make sure there's food and the house is clean and the laundry. My daughter's room has to be clean. My son's room has to be clean. Bath, brush, chores, laundry, dishwasher. He does all of those things. He makes sure that there's no assignment pending because he has signed up for classes. If he has signed up for classes, he is responsible for the work. He has to do all those things, and then he gets to play. And I have controls on my phone where I can control how much time he gets on his devices. And I unlock it at that point when I know that he's done and he's been responsible. I unlock it, and then I do not complain. If he's playing for 8 hours, 10 hours, choo, choo, poo, poo, all these fighting games, he does whatever he does. And then I don't complain about it because he has held up his end of the bargain and I've held up mine. So I agree that games are great. They learn a lot, but at the same time I don't think that continuous hours on the screen for an adult or for a child is healthy. So we have limits in the house.
Okay. So we have another question. It's basically
Yeah,
about,
it's the same for us as a family.
yes, yes, go ahead.
Just a point. I think that it's up to your family, how your family is based. See, like sometimes it depends on on the parents. Like I said, it goes back to us. Where are we as a parents? Do we spend countless hours being irresponsible And then when our children are irresponsible, we raise questions because it's easier to spot the weaknesses in the younger generation than to uh, say that we are the ones guilty also, and then come together as a family and say, like Ruchi said, okay, what shall we do so we can create a better life, a cleaner house, and everything. It goes back to the communication rather than to the rules, I think, personally. So you as a family, when you have issues on gaming or anything, you have to bring it down as a family. Okay, what do we do as a family? We are all contributor to the family. We are all here to make life easier for you and for us, and we are here to support you, but you also have to support us as you grow older. So I think those are part of communication rather than to say, oh, the game is bad, or don't do it or do it. That's the easy way out rather than as a growth as a family, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That is making your life easier as a parent to not take responsibility to melt with your child, to put the rule, don't play so many hours. So don't do that. It's easier for you to control your family rather than inspire growth in your family. So I think it matters how you approach these things. It goes back again to the communication and to your relationship with your children.
All right. Okay. We have another question. It's basically, 4 years old homeschooling child and parents. They enjoy plantation, but there is a fear that they are missing out on some other subjects or areas where the child may feel interested. So, how do they touch upon all these areas and they don't regret later on?
Wow. I think it's natural to feel this fear, One is for parents to accept that because we are also individuals, right? And we want the best for our children. So we are going to have fears. We would want our children to know about the world as we look at it, and as at least on those areas that we feel are important for them to know. So I think somewhere when I look at myself, I always do things that I want to do. And my children are always curious about what I want to do. And so, it's not only about their interests, but they also shift to my interests and at least have a basic understanding of what is happening with me and what I am into, what books I'm reading, what shows I'm watching, or what articles I read. And I think that for at least in our lives brings in this element where certain subjects that they are not interested in, they just get interested in because it's either me or my husband or somebody who's visiting us is into that area of work and talks about it, and just through natural conversations they get to know. But I'm sure the others might have different ways of looking at it. um, yeah, Supriya.
I just wanted to add in. So the fear of missing out is like Sharmila said, it's very common among people who just started homeschooling. Even I was there at some point in time, wherein because it's a path that is less trodden, so you really don't know what lies ahead. But as you get into it, you try to embrace what comes your way. Um, as for what the child, so it's mostly child led. So the child shows interest, you go with that. Plus, like how Sharmila said, your interest, your family, like your husband or grandparents, they come up with their, so that the child picks up. It's like a sponge. Child will pick up from different places. What do you watch on TV? What they listen to? What conversations that you have? So there is the thing about homeschooling is you don't have that, okay, by the time you're 5 you should know this. It's okay to know certain things as you grow. So that's how you try to get over the fear of missing out, is my thought.
All right. Anyone else wants to add something?
And I also think that, it's okay to not know. It's okay to don't have the answer, and it's okay if, maybe you miss. But again, the end goal of homeschooling is not to be a bulletproof education where what if this, what if that, what if the other, like that. We are failures because we will never have a bulletproof jacket for all these things. Who knows what kind of jobs there will be in the future, and we are not prepared for it. It's if you have installed a love for learning, and your children sees you at any age being willing to learn something new, being willing to adapt, to be flexible, they will carry that character with them, and they will be able to also learn at any age they want to learn. It's not limited only till 18. It's not limited till 24 or till 25. You can take at any age anything you want to do and learn. And I think that that's the goal when we raise our children. We will never be fully ready, so to speak. That neither a school will give you that guarantee that your children are fully prepared for everything. It gives you maybe a false security that your child is prepared for everything because he's going through a system, but not necessarily. Maybe you are just training him for a square office in an IT company, like a cubicle, just to be like a robot. Maybe you're not preparing him for the future. I don't know. I think while the fear is real, we also have to address it in this matter. Like, okay, we don't have all the answer, and if you are honest with your kids and say, I don't know about this. Many times my kids come and they ask me question, and I have to say, I don't know, I'm not ready for this. Why don't you research, or why don't we research together and let's see the answer? Or what do you think, or what's your vision for the future? Because it's their future, they will building up right now, and you'll be surprised how innovative your kids can be with the answer, and what conclusions they bring to the table. You would agree with me, right?
All right. We'll take a last question, which is quite interesting. There are a few comments which are in alignment with what we are discussing, so I'm not just putting them up. Uh, the last question is: how popular is homeschooling in India as compared to other countries?
It depends on the country. There are some countries where it's banned completely. You cannot homeschool. Your child must be enrolled in a school. And even if you look at the United States, different states have different rules. So, New Jersey has no rules. California has rules. Even if you're homeschooling, your child has to take an exam at the end of the year to make sure that they covered the entire curriculum. So, how popular is it? It's getting more and more popular. Unfortunately, COVID-19 has forced people to homeschool, even if it wasn't naturally something that they were interested in. I think the best case scenario is that you homeschool because you want to homeschool, not because you're forced to homeschool. But it's definitely popular. I mean, I have not felt lonely homeschooling. I always find my tribe, and so in India, it's not as difficult, or we're not as alone as it seems.
All right. So let's have, I think, uh, the closing statements from all of us. First thing, we will meet very soon, maybe next Saturday with something else. And what else, Sharmila?
No, I think what just comes to me right now is, COVID has forced us to live in the present, and that's a great thing. And I think that's very important for all of us to know that let's live in the present. Let's enjoy those little moments that we always missed, in this completely rushed up life. We constantly, we were hurrying up from one thing into another, and just waiting for the Sunday to relax. But Sunday also we had n number of household chores to do because we had to be prepared for a Monday. COVID changes many of these things. We have the option of taking things in a relaxed way and actually enjoying our children and their childhood, as well as our parenthood. By the time your children are going to be 18, 19, 20, they're going to be ready to fly the nest. And, at that time, you're going to start feeling, ki, oh, where are we? And oh, wish I had done this with my child. So, and then you would want to do it with the grandchildren. So, no, do it all with your children right now. Let your parents do it, let your children do it with their children later. So, yeah, that's it from me.
Supriya.
I would just say go with the flow, believe and trust your child, and believe in, like, you're going the right way. That helps. Just going with the flow makes it so much more peaceful for everyone around.
Right. And also one thing that, uh, whatever we are saying today is coming out from our own experiences. You may feel that, we don't like schools, we hate schools, but it's not like that. We are not like that. We have chosen our own path, and we love what we have chosen, and that is what we are sharing, how we are learning, what we are doing. And that's it. That's from my side. Lily, Ruchi.
So yeah, I'd just like to
I
say
think
that
that when
remember
you start
nothing.
with
Oh, sorry.
homeschooling, yeah. Sorry.
Okay. No, no, Lily, you go
No,
ahead. You
it's
go ahead.
okay.
Okay. So yeah, I was saying that just
It's
remember
okay.
that nothing is
Please
a
go ahead.
lifelong commitment. Yeah, education is not like, something that you have to decide
Mm.
today and commit to, and after 5 years you can't change your mind. You can change your mind at any time. If you want to put your
Mm.
kids back into school after 2 3 years when COVID-19 has died down, you can do that too. There are no limitations, because believe me, schools will be desperate to have children back. So they also have businesses to run. So this idea that the decisions we make right now are so important and you can't go back from it. No, it's not true. You can go back from it. You can always change your mind. You have the flexibility. Just be confident, and remember to always just be an advocate for your child, because they can't really advocate for themselves because they're small. So that's it from my side. Thank you.
Mm. Don't try to have it figure it out all in the beginning. If I do homeschooling, then I have to know this and this and this and this. I think that's the most important thing, to go and be accountable. If you made the mistake, be accountable and say, "Oh, I made the mistake. I go with this." Don't be afraid to say, "I made a mistake," neither to you, neither to your child or to others. And I know better now. But
Wonderful.
don't be too fearful to try new things also, because that it's a handicap to
Yes.
you and your child as well.
Okay. Then I think we
Yeah,
had a great comeback to our Saturday life. We had a great discussion, and I hope all those who are watching, will be watching later on, will get some help out of this discussion. And we hope to see you all very soon. Thank you so much, everyone.
yeah. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.